We're back for, what is this? This is part 2. Wait a minute, are we on part 2 or 3 now? This is part 3 of the August meeting of the Trimet Board of Directors. And any comments, Neal, before we begin?
No, let's just
get into it.
Let's just get into it. I'm not sure. Does anyone else? It only seems like 3 people have their voices.
I just posted it. What do you mean?
I mean,
You mean what?
I mean, most of these boards of directors are just sitting there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're sock puppets. Okay. The new ones are a little bit more active, but yeah.
When will the agency in the future decide what to do about the crossing potential over the river? Because I know it's difficult to think about trying to expand lines on a 100-year-old bridge. So we've talked about it informally. When in the future do you think the agency will be ready to really approach an alternative?
I think that this is a great question. I think firstly there's some work being done by Trimet right now, some early pre-feasibility study on options. I don't know the exact timing. That's probably about a year away, Steve.
Well, we've done some very conceptual work. I think that's been before you once already.
Yeah. So this keeps the engineers and the planners busy indefinitely. They always have some idea. He just said that they're working on the new bridge concept now. Okay, they're working on it. So they've already started working on this, and I think what I read was they're not planning on doing anything for 10 years or something. But there you go. Your capital projects just finds its own way to keep going no matter what. They just keep going and going and going.
Doug is correct. When I used to do the trolley over the bridge, I would slow up so the passengers could not only enjoy the view, but take a good look at it. And I would just chuckle myself that don't worry, Trimet is just waiting for Costco to have a sale on black flat Rust-Oleum paint. And if you can't see it, if you can't see the rust, then you can't worry about it.
Right.
We're looking for.
It's.
Yeah, but I just.
This problem is been from the get-go.
Yes.
Before,
they knew they were building it on a 100-year-old bridge when they built it. Okay, that wasn't some.
It's like, surprise!
No.
It's old.
Right. Yeah. That was well known. And somehow I think that this was all part of the plan too. I'm very suspicious about everything when it comes to government. Just the idea of building it on a 100-year-old bridge was bad, right at the planning stages, just like putting it up above ground and with all the cars and stuff. That was, a bad idea in terms of transit. It was a good idea in terms of property development, which is the actual goal of the light rail more than a transit. The whole transit-oriented development movement started in Portland, and it was around the rail. They have that meeting every year. What is it called? What is it? Light rail? I forgot what it's called, but they have all the different light rail places get together in a big celebration of the light rail, celebrating light rail. I can't think of the name of it. I'm getting older too. I forgot, but that's neither here nor there.
Other opportunities working with Metro, a regional
Yeah,
partner.
we're rolling.
So we're including that project in their long-term regional transportation planning. So it's going into the RTP amendment that's happening at the end of this year. Additionally, as we're looking for a region-wide funding measure that would include Southwest Corridor,
region-wide
and
funding
a host of
measure.
other projects
And
that are
other
needed around the
projects.
region, both transit and other transportation. We're asking that there are specific funds set aside in that request out to the voters that would really
And
advance
so
the
he's talking
design.
about the bond measure that was delayed this last year by Trimet that was supposed to be on the ballot in 2018. It is now scheduled to go before the voters in 2020.
Right.
Yeah, and would you think that the priority would be, gee, Southwest Corridor or 100-year-old bridge?
Right. Exactly. It should be the 100-year-old bridge, obviously. But no, they're gonna expand that service. Well, if they can get both, I mean, we talked about this in the last. Whatever they can get money for, they'll do. It doesn't matter what they don't care as long as they can get the money, and so probably their thinking is, well, let's get this Southwest Corridor in here, and then we can say the bridge is falling apart, and then we can get that money too later. So they're always planning how to keep getting money. This whole light rail cabal has to keep finding ways to keep the money flowing. So I imagine this is part of their plan. I don't really. A lot can happen between now and 2020, and a lot will happen, I'm pretty sure. And I don't really think this economy, which is already bad for a lot of people, it's great for the high income earners. The economy's booming, but for the low income earners, it's stagnant. And I really don't see tax packages being warmly received in the future, but I could be wrong. It's easy to fool the American public. They're pretty stupid.
And the school, I don't know whether you're following it, but the last tax measure, the big one for schools, that was promoted by those who proposed it based on, quote, a $250,000 house. It ain't going to cost you that much. And it was $790 million to remodel the schools.
Yeah.
Guess what?
What?
They're $100 million short.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, it's coming out now that all the people, mainly the contractors, and everyone was saying before this even got to the measure, it's not enough money. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to do this. And now the finger pointing. Well, I guess it was a communication problem. Never got that memo saying it was going to be that expensive.
So that passed, right?
Yeah, it's passed.
Yeah.
But now they're in the midst of remodeling schools, and they're finding out, they're short.
Yeah. So they'll come back again, and come back again, and come back again.
Unlike Trimet, that now has an unlimited source of income forever with the 2017.
And there's state payroll tax.
And that's the payroll tax, which is on top of the percentage payroll tax, which was already.
Yeah.
So they've got
they got great income streams coming into Trimet.
So the school district doesn't have that. If that, I'm sure the backlash that's going to go through affecting every other tax measure, saying, we can't trust you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised they're still voting yes on any of these.
I
mean, I don't vote.
Yeah,
I don't vote yes.
I guarantee you. Here's the strategy for the 2020 Trimet thing. It will not be on a November ballot.
Oh,
it will never be on a. It will be on a May ballot. It will be on a. In other words, the fewer the people who vote, the greater the chance it'll pass.
You think so?
And that's what happened. Tax measure as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was the other way around for Trimet. That the more people that voted, the better their chances.
No,
it's the other way. It's the other way, huh? Okay.
Right. They can mobilize a small group, and that's how most every single tax measure that has landed up has been neither on a November ballot where you're voting for.
In California, you need 2/3 to pass this stuff. It should be that way everywhere, really.
We had a law that was struck down. In other words, you had to have. I think you had to have 50% of the registered voters vote.
Yeah, in California, it's 2/3.
And that was struck down because the interpretation was by not voting, you essentially were, quote, voting, saying no.
Oh, I see.
So that was struck down by the Oregon Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm surprised that citizens vote yes on any of these. Well, they're fooled by the propaganda, Americans are very gullible and very easy to fool. And so they vote yes on these things. And it's a damn shame that people keep giving their money away to a failed government that doesn't meet their needs and actually oppresses them, but yet they keep voting yes on this stuff. If the elections are even real, sometimes I wonder if all of this is just one big fix anyway. I don't even trust anything anymore when it comes to government in our lives and what they tell us and what's true. I really don't trust anything anymore.
That in a real way. To be honest with you, Director Simmons, it's one that we'd like to get to. It's, as you well know, it's a very tricky situation in terms of ownership, and bridges are extremely hard to do in the Pacific Northwest given some of the environmental concerns. So it will take a while.
What do you mean? You just did a bridge. What's he saying?
We really are putting a marker down.
Yeah, he just did a bridge, and now he's saying it's hard to do a bridge. What the?
I mean, you just built a bridge, which is highly inefficient as far as, quote, transportation.
You're right, and he's saying no.
It sure looks good.
Yeah, it's on postcards. And they named it Bridge of the People, of course,
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't move any people.
I mean, if you ever watch, every time I go over the freeway going home, coming up from Brooks, doing my trolley work down there, I always look over to the bridge there, and I could take a bet. Most of the time, I don't see a bus. I don't see a car.
No, it's completely.
I mean, a bus, a train, or a streetcar on the damn thing.
Yeah, it's highly inefficient. I was against it, but the propaganda for that was just overwhelming, and everybody fell for that too. I mean, I watch how the taxpayers, the citizens, get fooled over and over and over by the propaganda that's pumped out and the politicians' lies. And over, the citizens buy this crap, and it's funny to watch from my perspective.
I mean, if anything was going to get built, it should have been the replacement for the steel bridge.
Absolutely, right. That's not how they think.
With the RTP, we continue to put this in our annual capital budget process. Sometimes other priorities take precedent for that, but it is active and it's on our radar screen on an annual basis.
I think just to add on to this these are the kinds of things that this is a very strategic crossing this agency. There's in the region, as a matter of fact, not only for today, but in case of something like an earthquake, the resiliency of the region is really, so it's a risk that we have, as UP has, as other has, and this is probably at the minimum of $1 billion type of expenditure if it's just a fix, an upgrade of significant portions. The other part this gets into is the broader, I think Steve's reference here is this broader ballot conversation for the region. And it also, not only is it a bridge to cross, it's also an inhibitor of us to be able to move Trimet quickly through this region. It's really one of our middle of our hourglass, as people literally, from my own public feedback sessions, live in East County and work in Hillsborough as they cross every day. So it really hits a number of functions, and at some point, I think the part of the options review is, in fact, do you replace the bridge? Do you put a bridge further down, or do you at some point, does this region, as it starts to 20, 30 years out, gets closer to 3 million population, at some point do we have to go underground? The challenge is always going to come down to money. Not a good idea, but and it's usually not the bridges or the tunnel that are expensive, it's all the egresses and such that typically about 50% of your cost structure. So I think we're going to be years probably in the making to get to the option, to get to the funding package. I think would be the most open I could be. But I think to Steve's point, we need to keep pushing this regional dialogue because it is such a strategic part. For us to carry it ourselves, I think is heavily burdensome. I think we're going to need a partnership, a regional conversation to help us carry this off. It would probably take all of us to do that. So I think it's probably years coming.
And we just hope we don't have an earthquake between now and then.
Well, there is risk, no question. There is no question. There's risk in resiliency.
Well, I'm not worried, because every single manager, starting with him, has promised to cross their fingers and pray that nothing happens.
Yeah, well, if there's any kind of, Trimet,
sure,
Trimet,
they've been thinking about this for 30 years, and nothing's happened so far, so they must be okay.
Yeah, right.
The interesting part is UP owns it, so they have a responsibility with ownership for resiliency that comes with a contract too. So
what he's basically saying is, we haven't figured a way to get into everyone's wallet again.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying.
We have that fateful time. I think this will be on the list of many, many things that we're all going to have to be addressing. So we're very much carrying the conversation. As you can see, even some of the public editorial board reviews I've done on this as well. But I think we need to be the champion.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're probably one of the primary users of it. But we'll take a regional conversation.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good question.
Dr. Bauman.
Thank you. I have a question about the entire set of proposals. So this is package 2 that we're approving today, and there are 9 total packages. What's the time frame for getting all this work done?
When this was put out to Stacy Whitbeck, or when Stacy Whitbeck won the job, it's a 5-year time frame. So we are now just starting year 2. So I believe that the funding that we have, again, it's about $20 million for the entire package, and that goes through 2023.
And so we've already included in the capital budget.
Okay, so you see they're talking about a contract here with Stacy and Whitbeck for steel bridge improvements. So that's what they're actually talking about is the contract, another contract with Stacy and Whitbeck for the steel bridge improvements. $20 million over 5 years, and of course they come back over and over for more because these contracts are never actually what they say they are. They're variable up. You can always come back for more.
All of the 9 steps in this process.
They're in the forecast. The budget, as you know, is a year by year. So, but we are we do have those costs in our forecasts.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? These guys. All right. Seeing no further questions, is there a motion?
Oh yeah, Neal, you made a remark when we signed off last time. What happened to Bruce Warner? Was he still on hold over there? Because
Yeah,
I mean,
I didn't catch the very beginning, but he was on a.
he was on a telephone, but we haven't heard a thing from him, and I don't know if he's still there or hung up or whatever. I don't
know. Did his 3 minutes expire and they disconnected him?
I don't know. Haven't heard a word from him.
To approve the resolution, so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Oh, there he went.
We already have a second here, but we'll give you a chance next time.
He talked.
We'll
That
hesitate
was
for you.
him.
Oh, that was him?
Yeah.
With that, is there any further discussion?
Oh God.
Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those, any opposed?
No.
Hearing none.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing. It carried.
Unanimously, as always.
I assume you're waiting for the next resolution. The second resolution is Resolution 180860. The Board of Directors acting capacity as the Trimet Contract Review Board, which Lance referenced
now
earlier,
they're
is also the board.
Talking about
Exempting from competitive bidding
I love
requirements a contract for construction manager, general contractor, so CMGC services for the fourth bus base facility project.
exempting
So,
from low
Vice
bid.
President? Yes, as you've indicated, the resolution does exempt us from the low bid process contract for construction services for this fourth bus base facility project. What are some tongue-tying words today? The project consists of construction of a new facility to accommodate our growing bus fleet, which is basically at capacity this fall. The approval will allow Trimet to initiate a competitive RFP, or request for proposal process, to select the most highly qualified proposer for award of this contract. The Trimet Board of Directors, acting in its capacity as the Trimet Contract Review Board, you may exempt the contract, as the earlier presentation covered, from the competitive ceiling.
Yeah, I have a real problem with exempt from low bid. It leads to cronyism. Definitely, that's the low bid process keeps it clean, so to speak. So I have a problem with this.
Bid requirements if the exemption is unlikely to encourage favoritism.
Yeah, right.
And will likely result in substantial savings and benefits to Trimet as an agency.
Yeah.
We're in the midst of a rapid expansion, as you know, the largest in our history, with the largest expansion kicking off this fall. And the fourth facility, the bus facility, is part of that expansion. For us to achieve and maintain the highest level of safe and reliable service, we need to procure an additional 200 buses over the next 6 years. This will increase the fleet from approximately the high 600s to over 900 buses by 2024. With all three current bus bases at this capacity, the maintenance work, the procurement work must get underway right now. The project will be located at 4421 Northeast Columbia Boulevard. I think we've spoken about the fourth bus facility in prior.
So I take it this is coming out of the general fund. This is coming out of the general fund. This expansion here.
Briefings.
And I have a problem with Trimet expanding at all. I don't think it's warranted right now, but they're going to do it because that's what they do. Government is always expanding, always, and I don't know, man. I don't think they're really doing a very good job with what they have. So I'm against the expansions completely.
It's the site of an existing heavy equipment maintenance facility. The Caterpillar facility is with people would know driving by. Trimet will design and build the project in 2 phases. The first phase will repurpose existing buildings. The second phase will see the construction of new and permanent bus operations and upgraded and replaced maintenance facilities. An exemption from the low bid is required to enable Trimet to select its contractors using a best value
or just
process.
a maintenance facility?
No, that's
Under the
they're talking about a whole new garage. That's what they're talking about.
Low bid procurement method, Trimet may consider only price in selecting a contractor. The competitive RFP process allows Trimet to select a contract upon consideration of many factors, and not only price, but including price. For example, use of the competitive RFP process allows Trimet to consider the DBE plans of proposers. as well as workforce diversity in awarding the contract. Additional considerations are provided in great detail as you've got in your Exhibit A in the resolution, which is included in your board packet. The project, as like the prior resolution, is included in the budget 1819 program. Mr. Vice President, approval is recommended.
All right, thank you very much.
They didn't.
Mr.
They're
Drummond.
not talking about the cost. If you want to, I'll repeat. If you want to see the actual numbers, you can go to my blog and you'll see what's called Trimet Pork Projects, and you can see it all detailed there.
Manager, are there questions for? See, Steve is still with us at the table. Are there any questions for Steve or General Manager?
Yeah,
Director Gonzalez.
Thank you. As a new board member, just to provide a little bit of context, how common or uncommon is it for us to utilize an approach like this, exempting from the low bid
Oh,
percentage
yeah, that's
the
good.
best value?
Good question.
Well, I would have to,
It's very common.
if I could, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Director
do it
Stilwell,
all the
Director
time.
Gonzalez. We don't do a lot of vertical construction. We don't do a lot of buildings, but we have built over 60 miles of light rail in this system. And that is where the majority of our CMGC contracting experience is. However, we used a CMGC contractor to remodel the Center Street operations facilities, where our bus is located on 17th Avenue, our operations facilities there. You'll see today we're also utilizing the CMGC process for the PAL garage, and we're asking for a modification to that contract to get into the construction there. So as we are shifting our focus away, well, not away, but as we are bringing into focus the rehabilitation of our facilities, some of which, like in the PAL garage, is essentially raising the site clean and building a brand new facility. We found the CMGC is a good way to work because we're having to manage phasing on the sites. And that's been a kind of, in the PAL garage, that's been a developing story as we know more about what our workforce needs are and our operational needs. So those are things that we can't clearly define in a low bid situation.
That doesn't make sense.
And so, as I described, very well-defined projects are great for low bid. Design build, we actually don't feel like that's the right.
In other words, the sky's the limit contract. That's what he's talking about.
Method here
Right.
because
And these contracts keep going back
For more, all the time. Right.
to this, basically the same few contracts.
I mean, I don't understand what's the big mystery. They have a goddamn garage. What's the big mystery in building okay, you want to tear it down? You know what you need. Okay, what's the big mystery? I don't get it, man. You just take a look at the garage, say you want a bigger, updated facility. I don't see how this is complicated.
we are discovering more and more about the existing buildings on site at this location. Our effort is to be as cost effective as possible by utilizing some of the
these are the
infrastructure
same
that is
people
there.
that you've got to consider the previous testimony and statements that these are the same people that, quote, are thinking about a new bridge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, excellent point.
We can't figure out whether we need 6 toilets or 8 toilets in this building.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's exactly a good point. That's exactly right. I mean, what's the big mystery here? There isn't any. Jesus.
I mean, if you're not sure what a garage might look like, take up a trip up to Seattle or take a trip to some other city at government expense and go look at a new garage.
Yeah. No, I mean, they know what a garage needs. It's not a mystery. Okay, they're using it, so I don't know.
I basically, what that new board member is worried about, he says, I'm just here to rubber stamp this.
No, it's a good question. How often do they? And he just said we don't use it very often, but that's not true. They use it all the time.
This is a very common practice.
Yes.
I think that, again, is sort of an iterative process. We need to get in there, understand what these buildings need, do some value sort of evaluations on whether we keep a building or remove a building and replace it. And so being able to work with a contracting entity and a design entity we see as an advantage. So very long-winded answer. I hope that
Yeah, it's just,
thank you. Take too much of your
just
time.
sad.
Follow up, if I may. In the spirit of preventing favoritism, then it sounds to me like this methodology will still allow us the opportunity to have more than one potential design build contractor come to.
Absolutely. Because it's a negotiated procurement doesn't mean that there's no competition, and we encourage competition.
Yeah, there's competition, but the TriMet executives make the decisions. The board. Then they bring it to the board. The board is not included in that process, and he's not telling them that.
Yeah, I mean, we've already discussed it, that the board, when the other guy was explaining all the different types of bidding process, basically the board is the last step.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. They're the rubber stamp. They're not involved in this process.
By the time it gets to them, it's a done deal.
Yes. And there's never been a case that I'm aware of where the general manager has been told no with one of these. Maybe one member, like you said, Bethel, said no on a couple of things, and I remember that. But he was the only, you don't get no.
He was one vote out of all of them,
right.
And it still passed.
Right.
Price is a component here, as well as performance and qualification. So we've not seen that competition has been limited via this delivery method.
Yeah, of course not. Right. Sure. That's why Stacy and Whitbeck always gets the
contract. In the case
contract.
where we feel competition is lacking, sometimes we will pull it and go back and check the market and try and create competition, and we'll reapply an RFP in certain cases where it's lacking.
Yeah,
I would like to know what case that was.
Yeah, I would too. I don't remember that at all, ever.
I know last month
And you've been watching these meetings as long as me. I don't remember that happening. Do you?
No.
I mean, I go all the way back to Fred Hansen.
I'm still trying to wait for him to tell me which operator's house he showed up for a barbecue. The only way I could think that actually happened was his car had a flat tire, and it just turned out that happened to be an operator's house.
Yeah, right.
an agreement with Raymore Construction. Was that a CMGC?
Yes.
That's what I recall. So, in reference to what you're saying, Director Gonzalez, I think that's a good example of the CMGC actually bringing in an outside contractor that's never done CMGC for us and allowing the kind of the DBE program to really expand into that space. So I think that's a great example of using CMGC for a DBE contractor and moving forward with that opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it limits us. We've looked at a lot of these, and it's just been really exciting again to see the opportunity with Raymore Construction over time as we've progressed with the CMGC process. Director Way?
I just have a question also just for context as a new board member. So is this the first time that we've exempted
the other new board members? There's 3 of them.
Well,
there's 2 there. It's 1 missing.
I see 4 there, and 5 there, and then Warner's on the phone. And
but there's another gentleman that
right. There's a couple of people. Yeah, the new guy, that's a black guy that he's missing.
He's not there.
The union guy, yeah. And is there one other one that's supposed to be there? I'm not sure. Let me look it up while we're watching.
Competitive bidding requirements for a build up of a facility, as you said, or
it is not.
Okay, so we have the board in previous times have approved these.
That's correct.
Types of deals before. Okay, and then can you tell us a little bit about what exactly the cost saving would be? Is it $1 million? Is it? I'm just trying to understand.
It's really hard to define at this very early stage. Again, we are looking towards actually your approval to move on with this process. Mm-hmm. I believe in your packet last time, there was a report. As part of the negotiated procurements, we are required to issue a report back to you, the contracting entity here, that explains how the negotiated contracting method worked out, how it benefited the agency. Anecdotally, what we have here is a vehicle to work with a contractor when problems arise and not let a problem sort of get to the point where we're have a claim situation. And so I think the real benefit and the real savings, and we can certainly pull statistics for you, is in that ability to deal with the unforeseen conditions, the tricky things that happen in construction,
What
and
he's
use
talking
that
about
method to avoid.
is that the contractors that they work with, if the contractor has a problem, he knows that if he has to eat it this time a little bit, there's no problem. He can make it up on the next contract.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
That's a hell of a way to do business, and you only see it in government. You don't see this anywhere else. This is not how the world works.
Actually legal battles, and that's been very successful for us. Even on the Orange Line, we had some unforeseen conditions. Because we had a negotiated contract, we were able, and part of these contracts, Director Way, is we actually assign risk, and we set aside money either in their pot or our pot. In this particular case with the bridge, we were able to tap a risk pool there, resolve the issue without the involvement of attorneys or a court.
I think I understand that piece. My question was just back to what is the dollar amount of cost savings? Are we, as a board, when we're weighing in on this, exploring, and if we have done this before in previous projects, I think it would be helpful just to understand, this, by going this route, this exemption, that saved us, right, X amount of money. So that was not a specific question.
Never.
I don't know if we have
they don't have that.
amount.
There's no way to answer that question for this project. Just throw that on.
Right.
But for previous projects, we have
Right.
done
Yes,
that evaluation. Okay.
What I might suggest here is if we'll, outside of this, we could get Steve's team to give you some examples of prior work and savings that may help in the understanding of what's the financial value proposition of this methodology.
I think that would be very helpful because that
Yes.
is a
Good for her.
significant part of.
Yeah, I
our
like this
vote
woman. I
is-
like her.
Is that it has to
She's my new favorite board member.
do A
Yeah.
and B, so that would be very helpful to know what is the actual cost savings.
Yes, we want
And
more
just
information.
kind of a brief response. I think these are great questions. I think every time someone joins the board, myself included, ask very similar questions. So these are spot on in regards to getting this additional information. One of the things that I would reference in regards to the CMGC process, that I've looked at it's not always about cost savings sometimes, but it's also about value creation. And it's the total package. And sometimes we may or may not get an actual hard cost savings, but because of the relationship that we then have with the CMGC contractor, we have a tremendous opportunity to save sometimes, which would have, things that would have extended our time on the project and missed deadlines, because now we're going through, we're in this relationship where we now have the ability to, as we discover things.
What he's saying is we're in a crony relationship. Okay, that's
Right. And if we get a new person who doesn't understand the rules,
right.
It
could be problematic.
We have to cut in a new group of people called lawyers.
Yeah, right. We like our little crony relationship. We can work together with these people, and because we understand each other.
Not have to go back to a hard contract that we've had before and take up a lot of time. And so I think about the Orange Line, and there were many contractors and processes on the Orange Line, but of course, as everybody knows, we completed that on time and significantly under budget. And I think some of the things we utilize there, we use CMGC contracting on.
There's another great fallacy. Yeah, there's a pack of lies. Under budget. Yeah, if you don't build the 6-story garage that you were supposed to put in, that keeps you under budget. You know, you don't fulfill what you promised to do. That's under budget.
Right. And they were only 50 million under budget anyway, which is nothing when it was 2.3 billion. I forgot.
Right.
Yeah, that's like nothing.
You know, and by the way, I've heard it before, and I'm not sure whether actually the bridge was included in the actual overall cost, because the way they were at one time explaining it, well, it's everyone's bridge, so bus and rail were using it.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I mean,
yeah.
It's always hard to get to, quote, the real number.
Yeah. Well, at least they didn't pull a Hawaii. You know, I don't know if you've been following that debacle in Hawaii.
Oh yeah,
that light rail is like $4 billion over budget and counting. You know, at least they didn't pull one of those deals.
That's absolutely, yeah. I've been following that, and that's a real disaster.
Yeah. And they're gonna get all the money, and it's gonna come in, and the taxpayers lose again, and the cronies win.
Many parts of that project, and we saw the benefits of that. And I think, I think a good review, similar to what Doug just referenced, a good review of those projects, I think will kind of balance. I think some there were pure cost savings, but then other ones there was just significant process savings that I think really kept our projects on time. And we're notorious for rolling in our projects on time and on budget.
The one thing I think I would add is, in looking and seeing some of these CMGCs perform, there's particularly when you get to the unknown. The more specific you are, we all want to go in specific. It's a opportunity, but it's also a risk to project management, where you get into things that were just not known, including sometimes we don't have as-built drawings that go back 30, 40 years sometimes. And as you get into those, if you don't have the flexibility in your contracting strategy, then it will be a giant change order every single time. And particularly when you're doing this, the metaphor I try to use, we're trying to rebuild some of our facilities while we drive them. And we don't get to park it. We've got to keep running Powell Garage and others. And there's a lot of operating disruptions that sometimes nature is very powerful and will shut us down. Freezing rain, whatever. Those will be nothing but change orders while they sit on the sidelines. So I think some of the flexibility is actually helpful in those highly variable environments. But I think the information we'll bring back to you will be very helpful to you.
We'll be waiting.
All right, Mr. President, do you have any
comments? Is what difference does it make? It isn't their money. It's not coming out.
No, right? They don't care. Yeah, they don't care.
I mean.
Yeah, this is an endless pool of tax money. Yeah, endless pool of tax money, and nobody in government, even in big business, corporate business, actually takes personal responsibility for any of this. You know, it's tax money, so it can be wasted at will, and it is.
Comments or questions?
It's not the people's money; it's our money. So just let us do what we need to.
Right. Yes.
No, I guess comments. I would say this. Great questions. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we had the briefing on the kind of the alternate methods of delivery earlier, because this is the fourth bus space facility is clearly an opportunity where this kind of alternative delivery should be utilized for many of the reasons that Doug just outlined. I think this will allow some flexibility. It'll allow us to maybe get portions of that site up and operating while we're building other pieces of it. I just see a CMGC being invaluable on this project. So I'm going to support it.
Of course he does, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Further questions?
That was a pre-recorded message brought to you by...
I asked further questions and talked right over that. Are there any other questions? All right. Does the board feel comfortable moving forward with the motion?
You know, every time you ever hear one of these board members or the person testifying start with the preposition, that's a great question. You pretty well know
right.
that the answer you're going to get is BS.
Right, that's right. All right, pass your resolution and move on.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion at this point?
Okay.
Mr. President, we're waiting for you to actually throw in a motion or a second here just to make sure we've got your input.
I will
but
second that motion if it wasn't seconded.
we got it seconded.
yeah,
We're going to give you a chance the next time around.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, is there any further discussion on the topic, on the resolution? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, excellent. Any abstentions? I think it was unanimous, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Oh, boy, this is...
Boy,
All right, now we'll move on to resolution number 3, and that's resolution 18-08-61.
How much money?
Board of Directors acting in its capacity as the Trimet Contract Review Board, exempting from competitive
And another
bidding
one.
requirements.
Oh, we don't
for
use it very
contract- for the
often.
Contractor
Here they are in
services
one meeting
for
twice.
signals and communications
Yeah,
systems
the only
work for
advantage
the
of
Cleveland
ever
Crew
showing
Room.
up to these meetings, which I have done in the past, is that all these resolutions in detail, they're times 5 or 6 pages, are out on a table, so you can actually...
Yeah. Oh, they have them on the website too. You can see them. They do have it on their Transparency Center, and I have them posted on my blog. It shows you how much money.
I mean, it's not great reading.
No, but you can see how much money they're spending.
Renovation project. Mr. General?
I mean, when they talk about the $2.50 fares, and then you go through these resolutions, hundreds of millions and millions of dollars that they spend on this shit, it just makes it clear that the fares really has nothing to do with the money. It has to do with the control of the population. They don't care about the $2.50. What they do care about is suppressing the population.
Manager. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This approval before you today will allow Trimet to initiate a competitive request for proposals or RFP process to select the most highly qualified proposal for award of this contract.
Okay.
The project is part of a larger construction project at
this is
the
for
Cleveland Avenue Light
signals-
Park and Ride Station.
Signals and communications work in the Cleveland Crew Room. You should know about this one, Neal. You know anything about this? What about the
Cleveland what?
Crew Room? Cleveland Crew Room renovation project, services for signals and communication systems. I don't know.
Station and rental. And it's a
Isn't that Cleveland Crew Room a dump? I've heard, isn't?
Now, I do not know whether they're actually referring to the mole-infested biohazard shack that's been, it's going almost on 3 years now. That, quote, we've been in a temporary used trailer. So I'm not sure whether this is the...
This might be I think it's more technical here.
Under a separate contract. It includes the design, furnishing, and installation of new signals and communication systems and equipment at the new Cleveland Signals and Communication Building.
So they have a new building?
Cleveland Avenue is the final stop, just so you know, eastbound on the Max Blue Line. It's also expected to be the final stop for the Division Transit project. The larger project will replace a building on the platform that currently contains an operator break room and a signal communications hut.
Yeah, right.
The building's deemed damaged beyond repair due to chronic water leaks and mold.
Okay.
In addition, the existing systems and communications...
is the one who sounded the alarm 5-6 years ago and was told, you're crazy.
equipment is also outdated and cannot be remedied under current conditions. This part of the project replaces the existing signals and communications by installing new equipment in the new signals communication building. An exemption from low bidding is required to enable Trimet to select its contractor using a best value process.
Yeah, here we go again.
The competitive RFP process allows Trimet to select the contractor upon consideration of many factors.
Yeah, right. Now here we are twice in a row.
Those include things like price, we've talked about earlier, experience in the similar work. This is a very technical type of work. schedule performance, cost control, attention to safety, particularly in an operating rail environment, quality workmanship, minority women, emerging small business and workforce, diversity programs. Construction of the project will occur along the operating light rail line and public transit facilities. In addition, experience working on a rail line signaling, not just the HUD itself, is really important here. It consists of specialized work. Most of the
So Neal, is there something wrong with the signals out there?
Well, not really. What he's talking about, I'm not sure whether they've been talking for years that they need to actually have a third rail, so 3 trains can come in.
Yeah, but he's talking about signals here. He's not
Well, that would be part of the signals as well. And, and if, hang on a second. Ari, I gotta call you back. I'll call you back in an hour. So, that was my son from San Antonio.
Well, you can take the call if you want. We can wrap it up.
That's all right. The signals out there have had problems every time it freezes, which is related to the switch problems.
Okay. All right.
So it is a complicated.
Okay.
You just, and if you're going to be building out there where the shack is, there's signals behind there that are also involved. So it's in between. The shack is in between a bunch of signals and switches, so it's not like you got a clear slate to just go march out there and start building. But the other thing that is always, which they probably will not do or consider, and I'll be on record here, over the years, and I think it's in my tenure of almost close to 20, 4 times the sewer line had to be dug up in the parking lot there, connecting to the shack. Exact same spot, 8-10 feet down.
Wow.
God, I just don't understand what causes vibration that this sewer line keeps breaking there. Could it be due to the trains coming in?
Who would have thought of that?
Wow. Boy, is that a tough one to figure out. But don't worry, these are the same people who are entrusted thinking about the new bridge.